And we're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fred Hampton Leftist Roundtable on Thursday. It's great to have you all and great to see you all. Today we have the wonderful JB. He is the host of the JB Show. We have Nick, Socialist MMA, host of Deeply Serious. I am your host for today, RJ, host of Revolutionary Jargon. We'll have pretty soon Killjoy Meg. She's the host of the Killjoy Guide. And we'll have Sabby Saps, host of the Sabby Saps Show. So that's all of us that will be joining you all today. First off, how are you, JB, and how are you, Nick?
I'm doing fine. There was a lot to do today, a lot to go over today. There was a lot of news in the week. There was significant call outs and things like that. It was just a lot to go over. So I'm just excited to get to the topics today.
Yeah, super good to be here. Thanks for everyone for watching. Obviously, we got a lot of people in the chat. So thank you guys. Good to be here. Sabrina's in the house too.
Greetings.
I love your hair, girl. Okay, I see you.
Oh, that's just humidity.
Oh, no, you're supposed to say, "Oh, thank you." Okay, I did this. Okay. Yeah, so I think one of the first topics we'll get into really is about Afghanistan. I don't know if you guys have seen Nick and JB's coverage on this. I believe it was Tuesday. They did a very good job here. But we really want to get deeper as well and reiterate some of the things that's going on with Afghanistan. So I'll show an article that was written by Reuters on the stream for you guys real quick, just to go over that article. You guys can interrupt me whenever you want if you want to talk about something that piques your interest in this article. But I do just like showing articles to see not only what certain media sources are saying, but to really call out some of the, I would say, misinformation they'll bring, or just to really get a feel of how people are feeling about this crisis. So according to this article by Reuters here, it says over 600 Afghans cram into a U.S. cargo plane in desperate flight from Kabul in Afghanistan. So here you have this image of many different Afghans really crowding in this plane to leave Afghanistan as the U.S. forces leave after the Afghan government fell. So this is actually a very concerning image. There's also a video I'll be showing soon of really Afghans crowding the outside of an airplane, really trying to get on it to actually leave the state, as well as many of them have fallen from their death after the airplane launched in the air. So here you have August 17th in Reuters. Can people actually see this or no? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Because sometimes I just start rambling and I don't realize if people can see it or not. So it says more than 600 Afghan men and women and children crouching and cramped up against each other on the floor of the U.S. military plane. The photograph I just mentioned here kind of shows the Afghan civilians, some clutching luggage and others bottle feeding infants on the C-17 cargo aircraft that's gone viral on social media. So it goes on to say a U.S. official told Reuters about 640 people crammed into the flight from Kabul on Sunday when thousands of people desperate to flee the country surged to the airport in the Afghan capital. So we kind of have some quotes from an official there. So they said the unusually high number of passengers was the result of a dynamic security environment that necessitated the quick decision making by the crew, which ultimately ensured these passengers were quickly taken outside of the country. So they're talking about certain protocols that were taken not only for safety and security to ensure that really the Afghans had the best opportunity inside the aircraft. So do you guys have any questions or comments so far from you guys? Oh, and we have Meg just joining us. So go ahead, Nick.
Yay.
Yeah, I got nothing. You can keep going, but yeah, we saw a lot of the pictures coming out of the airport. And I have a lot to say because obviously the media is doing an incredible job. I'm gonna break this down here very soon because the amount of people who believe that we should leave Afghanistan has dropped significantly in the last few weeks, and that's because they always show these images that we kind of knew what was going to happen. And it's devastating to see that, but you notice how they didn't show the dead bodies that we are responsible for and killing in Afghanistan. The families that we were torturing in Afghanistan. We killed a lot of innocent civilians because of military negligence. So, imagine how many people would be anti-war if those images were shown. It's tragic, but this is the reality of war. When you see these kind of things, this is the kind of stuff that should make you want to oppose all war even more, because this is what happens when you think the United States is actually going to have good intentions and actually help a country. It's just really nothing but destabilization, which the United States is responsible for. But I have no other comments on the picture. You can keep going, RJ, or open the floor up.
Yeah, so actually you made a great point because I don't know if anyone knows this, but like when I was in high school, we used to study about the Gulf War, what happened in the 90s under H.W. Bush. And many of these images that you see during wartime and like dead bodies, people being decapitated, individuals injured. And one famous image always stuck with me during that time. It was in a textbook. It was an image of Afghani soldiers inside of a burnt car. And so inside that charred car, it had the body of that soldier completely charred and burnt up, like hands on the steering wheel, entire body charred, and you see the bones. And so if ordinary citizens see the type of effects that war has, especially by an occupying force, like the country, like the United States, people will be more inclined to be anti-war. So I do agree with your stance on that, Nick. Specifically, if we show these type of images and videos, it really could garner awareness to the type of actions a country has, and we could stop this type of wars from spreading. So that is a great point. And so we do want to. I do want to say hey to Meg. Meg just joined. Hey Meg, how are you? How you doing?
Good. Sorry to be late. I literally just walked through the door. I got home from work.
Okay, it's nice to see you stopping by, and it's great to have you. So I'll just keep going. This is actually an interesting article to really get some extra details on. So it says, according to the manufacturer Boeing, the C-17 Globemaster III can carry 134 passengers, including 54 on side seats and 80 on the pallet floors. Many of the Afghans climbed aboard the plane via a half-open ramp before the flight left for Qatar. That's the United Arab Emirates. It's the capital city of that country in the Middle East. And it says, with one of the highest number of passengers ever flown on such aircraft. U.S. defense and security news site Defense One reported. Reuters could not immediately verify those details. So it's saying this article couldn't verify the details based on the schematics of the actual aircraft and, how many people can be on based on those schematics. So it goes on to say other distress videos and photos have emerged from Kabul airport where witnesses say several people have died and showed people clambering up overhead gangways and clinging to the landing gear of taxiing planes in desperate attempts to flee. So if I click here, will it actually go to somewhere else or no? But I got an actual video to show more about that. So let me go back. Okay. Yeah, so I think that basically kind of covers the rest of it. And then I'll actually share this on the screen. It's actually a nice video that I've seen that really just gets the feel of really what's going on, and you can actually see for yourself the type of effects that the people have had to deal with. So let me share my screen again. Okay, sharing the screen, sharing audio. Okay, here we go.
Oh my gosh. Mm.
Yeah, so that video really, really hits. Like when I instantly saw that video, it really brought back a lot of images into my mind about what happened during the Gulf War and many other type of instances. Like that video itself brought up back a lot of really terrible memories. It also brought back the Gulf War. Also, that video of some soldiers back in Iraq, like bragging, like saying killing Iraqis was like playing a video game. Like you could literally hear the military footage of those soldiers bragging about, like telling like their top commanders to let them shoot people. Like I think you guys have seen that video, right? I've seen it. But it brought back those type of feels. But I want to open it up to you guys. Like, how do you guys feel about this situation that's happening in Afghanistan, and more specifically, the video I just played for everybody? So we can start with JB and then go to Nick.
You know, Uh, oh, sorry.
No, my bad.
Sorry. Uh, Brathwaite, thanks for the super chat. Beware of your media sources and propaganda coming out of Afghanistan to justify America not leaving that country.
That's a fair.
Um, it's a good point. Either way, I mean, it's terrible from what we saw, but we should have never been there in the first place. And so uh, that is just a microcosm of how we actually treat the citizens of this country, is what you saw. So yeah, I it's just terrible all around, and we need to get out of there. And the only type of help that needs to be given to that country is diplomatic aid. And the United States has done so much damage. We just be hands off. Just let other countries help them out,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's
Very
all I
well.
got to say. That's all I got to say.
Very well point there. Nick, you said you had some thoughts really earlier when I was reading the audience the article about some firsthand accounts. What are your thoughts about this situation?
So what people need to understand, I know this is very heartbreaking to see, but there is not a good solution for Afghanistan. And the idea that we should stay in Afghanistan, that's like saying, oh, we have a fire, so we should use gasoline to put the fire out. Because do you guys understand why the Taliban in Afghanistan has so much political capital? Because the United States is responsible for insane amount of atrocities in Afghanistan. And that's why I love the super chat that you said earlier, because I have been careful because I've been reading a lot about this, and I know the depth of U.S. propaganda, and I'm going to share a good example of this. And this is why you see massive support in us staying in Afghanistan. That's the response I want to show. But you see, this came out of the Atlantic. One of the reasons we stay. This is the insane propaganda. This is why we're the most propagandized country in the world. One reason that we stay in Afghanistan so long with nothing to show for it except for the safety of women. This is insanity. Is that for all our sins, our default position is freedom. That is
Sorry, it's
absurd.
laughable.
But that's the kind of stuff that gets print in Afghanistan, Afghanistan, and the Atlantic with no shame, and people pretend that we're not unbelievably propagandized. It was about look. Let's anyway. Check this out. Check this out. This is kind of debunk this and let you guys know why there have been so much support for the Taliban. Because they're showing all the people that are freaking out because the Taliban made ground, but they're not showing them out the Afghans. And this is by design by the media that wanted the Taliban to take over. Not saying that's great, but that's because of stuff like this. United States soldiers killed Afghan citizens, civilians for sport and collected fingers as trophies. Now, I want to go through this little passage here so you guys can understand what I am telling you about. This is from Jacob Ben. This is a great article outlining the United States atrocities in Afghanistan. So let's go through this because I think this is pretty important. In 2004, the organization they had and what they're outlining is WikiLeaks released Afghan war logs, and they go into great detail the kind of stuff that we did in Afghanistan. One thing we would do, we would pretty much kidnap people and send them to Guantanamo and torture them. And their families had no idea where there was. There was no accountability. There were a lot of innocent civilians that have been taken and disappeared. Here's some more examples. The laws highlighted instances of shocking recklessness, as when a smart bomb malfunctioned and landed on a village, causing 19 casualties, or when a Polish troop violated protocol and rained mortar into a villager near where a military vehicle had been attacked, killing 6 civilians, including a pregnant woman and 3 kids. Now, there are a lot of examples in that article. Now, once again, what happened in that plane is tragic. But imagine if the media showed all the stuff that's outlined in that article and what I just told you. Imagine if the dead bodies of the civilians that we killed because we bombed their villages was plastered all over the news. How many people will support the war in Afghanistan? If there was a detailed profile that was done on CNN at prime time where they talked to the families that had their husband disappeared at night because the United States, they used to launch night raids. And this is what turned a lot of Afghan citizens to like, what's this the lesser of two evils? Even the Afghan citizens who didn't like the Taliban, they're like, okay, well, at least with Taliban, we can have some sort of way to resist this. Like we can maybe have some sort of governance where we talk to them and try to stop them. But there's no accountability. Like they had night raids that would just kidnap people and their families, and that was a giant problem. The point is, we are responsible for an untold amount of damage, and that would drove up support for the Taliban, and that's why,
Hey,
despite the
hold
media,
up.
go ahead, JB.
Hang on, Mister. You've been making a few choice comments. Am I ashamed to be American? No, I'm ashamed of what our government is doing. And the thing is the fact that what our government is doing is absolutely horrific. And the thing is that we're not defending anything that the American government is doing. In fact, we want to change it. In fact, we're going up against the American government for what they're doing. So just by us talking about this, so yes, we are ashamed. In fact, we want every single person that has been ever voted for this war to be in prison. We want that. So, yeah, guess
Great
what?
point.
You're talking to people who are basically saying the exact same thing that you're saying right now. Is that we actually hate what the government is doing, and in fact, we actually want to cut our military budget by like 99%, and we want all the military bases closed, and we don't want any of this happen anymore. And we are anti-imperialist. We're not anti-war. We're anti-imperialist, which means that even sanctions are an act of war to us. So
Yep.
just wanted to get the facts straight, Mister Nazaviti.
I don't know how to say his name, but I want that guy to understand that the
Yeah,
United States is the biggest source of terrorism in the world.
they are.
When
This government is, yes.
when people was asked about what is the biggest threat to world peace, what is the biggest obstacle towards peace, everyone chose America. So if anyone, like when I see people who are patriotic and they know what our country has done, you seem like a psychopath to me.
Yeah.
We jailed 25% of the world's prison population,
Mhm.
and you're proud to be an American. We have police that use poison gas on protesters in this country, and you're proud to be an American. We have literally ICE detention centers that have been caught raping and force-feeding migrants. And the reason why they had to force-feed these migrants because the conditions in these centers were so bad and the COVID treatment was so bad. These people were like, all right, we'd rather starve than stay here. That's the country you're proud of? It's kind of crazy to me. It says a lot about your values. So I unapologetically say, at this point, I am living just to see the death of the U.S. empire. And I'm not afraid to say that because we are the biggest cause of pain and suffering in the world. So now the media is pretending like, oh, we care about Afghan women. We are literally financing a genocide in Palestine that is responsible for how many Palestinian women having their lives ruined. We literally sponsor Saudi Arabia, and they literally lynch women in broad daylight. Yeah, we our no one ally lynches women in broad daylight for over minor grievances. That's the
Yeah.
country that you proud of the country that finances that. So anyway, like patriotism is a cancer. Even like honestly, even if you're from a good state, I still think patriotism is a cancer. Because I think you should care more about your neighbors. Like when you care about dirt and the flag, that's beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
And one topic of conversation, and this relates to Afghanistan. I think Meg about to say, I'll pass it to you, Meg. Is you guys know that was one thing that Daniel Hill was leaking, and this is what he was playing is the callousness that United States soldiers showed in Afghanistan for human life. So the people that are now, and once again, I'm gonna probably present this here very soon. That is now being swayed by the propaganda and the media that we are the best intentioned actors. That's beyond ridiculous. But Meg, do you have anything you want to add? I think you was about to chime in.
But,
I mean, to answer that guy's question, I mean, it's not about being ashamed of being American, as one of the biggest ways that you can be patriotic, and kind of to push back a little bit on what Nick was saying as well, is that one of the ways that you can be the most patriotic is by dissenting and calling out your government for the shit that it's doing in your name. Sorry if my voice is a little hoarse because I was yelling at my students in my 7th period. But so I'm sorry if my voice is a little hoarse. But just continue as like that is the most patriotic thing. Like there's nothing wrong with being patriotic. There's a difference between patriotism and nationalism. And the people in this country are very nationalistic. And what that means is that they go with whatever their government is saying blindly, obediently, just saying like, oh yeah, support the troops, America. Like that is nationalism. Patriotism is being willing to want your country to be better. And everyone on this panel wants the United States to be better. And one of the ways that we want the United States to be better is by ending all these imperialist wars. That's what we want. We want our country to do better. And that's what we were fighting for by saying, get out of Afghanistan, by ending police violence, defunding the police, all of these different ways that we were saying it. We want this country to be better and to do better by its people and by the world. So that is patriotism. Yeah. And so we should all be patriotic in that way. We should all be dissenting and calling out the bullshit that our government is doing in our name.
That's such a great point that is made by Meg. And the funny thing is, I use patriotism against conservatives all the time because, people who claim they are patriotic are usually the biggest liars and frauds that you will talk to. So how are you patriotic, but you're willing to allow your neighbor to die because they don't have health care? Is that patriotic that you willing to let that happen? How is it patriotic that you want to allow people to sleep under bridges in the winter because they go homeless? That's not patriotic. Now, me personally, I would say I care about everyone. I want to see everyone thrive. But that's a very valid way to sell patriotism and make sure you let people know that that's really the people. Like, what is a country but a people? So if you're not actually caring about taking care of people, you're not patriotic. And now that describes the entirety of the Republican and Democratic Party. But anyway, I went back to Savvy. I know I've been talking too much.
Yeah. So we have a super chat from Mr. Methuselah. It says, the best thing is for the Taliban to take over governing Afghanistan as quick as possible. When extremists have to govern, they become moderate. So that's from the super chat. So thank you for that. But I do want to get Sabby's really takes on the conversation at hand in terms of Afghanistan, as well as the video as shown of really Afghans not only going on top of the plane, but also falling to their deaths as the U.S. plane leaves Afghanistan. And also the current topic at hand on patriotism versus nationalism. So Sabby, I would love your insights.
Yeah, so my dad actually served in the Gulf War, which is what you were referencing earlier, RJ. And none of these, U.S. occupation in these countries doesn't really improve the lives for the people that live in those countries. And my dad has said that as well, having served. And I'll give you an example. When the U.S. government captured Saddam Hussein, everybody was cheering. They said, yay, dictator's gone. But when they captured Saddam Hussein, that actually gave way to ISIS. That's how ISIS was able to come in and take over. So as awful as Saddam was, and I will admit he's an awful person. I just don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. By him being in power there, he was able to keep that in check. The moment the U.S. came in and removed him, that gave way to ISIS, and ISIS spread. So the way that I kind of look at this is that every time that we get involved, and I've said this time and time again, the people in those countries are worse off than they were before we intervened. We're not really helping them. We were just talking about this recently about the women, because there were a lot of people on Twitter saying we got to save the women and protect the women in Afghanistan. But I showed pictures of this recently of what women in Afghanistan were allowed to wear before U.S. intervention and what they had to wear after U.S. intervention. So the women in Afghanistan actually had more freedom before we intervened. It's never a good outcome. Every time we get involved, we make things worse for those people in those countries. In reference to nationalism and patriotism, it's always weird to me, like when people are like, they have American flags hanging off the back of their truck, or they're at the front of their house and they're like, yeah, America. It's just weird to me, because it's like, what's so great about it? What's so great about it, especially right now?
What's so great about truck nuts?
It's just weird to me. Like, even when Trump was running on Make America Great Again, which he got that from, like, Reagan had that, and Clinton was saying that at one point as well. When was America great? And I'm thinking about this from the perspective as, someone who's African American. I'm trying to remember, when was America great for African Americans in this country? And I think people don't think about that. So I never understood the whole patriotic love, like red, white, and blue. I never understood that. And same with nationalism. I just never. you have to be able to admit that our country has problems. Everything with America is not great. And for the people who say, well, if that's the case, then why do so many people want to move here? Look at where they're moving here from. So I want people to think about that. If you're moving here from a country where, it's complete dictatorship, you don't have running water, you don't have electricity, I understand moving to a country like America. But having lived in some of these other places, I think we have a lot of things in this country that need to be improved. And I think it's going to come about like us admitting that and stop it with the whole America's great. We're the best country. We're the best that we're not even, listen, we're not in terms of like economics. We're not even top economically anymore. China is top economically. China is killing us in commerce. So again, I ask, what's so great about America? And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking that question. But I think to answer your point, RJ, I don't think we should have never been in Afghanistan to begin with. And we wouldn't have this problem. But once again, we intervene because we try to police the world. And now we're faced with what we're faced with now.
Hey, RJ, can I comment on what this guy is saying here about the Mujahideen? Because I just
go ahead. I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah, I just did an entire episode talking to Mon about what's happening in Afghanistan that we had her on Tuesday. And there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. The United States did not create the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen were already in Afghanistan. They were different militia groups that were conservatives who were fighting back against the Soviets. And they were being funded by the United States and Britain and other Western allies because they wanted to make sure that Russia did not have an in Afghanistan. Because Afghanistan and the Soviet Union had a very close partnership. And because, as another comment said, they did have socialism in Afghanistan during that time, and they were doing quite well. Like, women were equal during that time. Women are creating worker co-ops in Afghanistan during the 1980s. But then, because the United States was funding the different Mujahideen groups, because they were all different tribes who had basically come together, they were funding these groups, and that included Al-Qaeda as well. And after the Soviet Union fell, because of the economic collapse there, that's what created a vacuum, because now Afghanistan did not have the Soviet Union as their partnership to have economic growth. So that created a vacuum. The Mujahideen were able to gain more power. The Taliban grew out of the Mujahideen because the Taliban came from the Pashtun region of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And a lot of the Mujahideen went to Islamic schools in that region. And so they became Taliban. And then the Taliban rose to power in 1996. So they didn't even come to power till 96. They were out of the Mujahideen. So that's how they came to power. And that's something I learned from Mon. So
yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, Meg. I apologize. But I just
no worries.
I want to add it because I think this back up exactly what you were just saying. Because what Meg broke down was really well said. And this is kind of what I was explaining on the Vanguard. Yesterday, I didn't have a chance to pull the source up, obviously. But this is pretty much what just Meg just explained. Because this is debunking the nonsense that we are good for women. And this is explaining the situation. It ignores the fact that U.S. supported radical Islamist groups in their takeover of the country in the first place, a move that drastically reduced women's rights. Now, this is the pre-Taliban that Meg was just telling you guys about. Half of university students were women, as were 40% of the country's doctors, 70% of its teachers, and 30% of its civil servants, reflecting on the reforms of the Soviet-backed government that the United States dedicated massive resources in destroying. And now, like today, you got fewer than 20% of teachers are female. Only 37% of the girls can read. This is what the literacy rate I was talking about that dropped when I was on the Vanguard. And this is because of the United States intervention. So that's why I'm glad Meg brought that up. And I think that's very important to understand. And once you understand that, you understand all the people that are saying that we are having the good intentions of women. That's unbelievably ridiculous. So thank you for bringing that up, Meg. JB?
I just wanted to say thank you for the super stickers and super chats. Thank you to Piano Man for the super sticker. Mr. Methuselah has a super chat. He says, "True savvy. My parents had to immigrate from a country whose democratically elected government was overthrown by the CIA and installed a dictator." And we have one
Which
more.
one?
Yeah. Also, please, Mr. Methuselah, please tell us which one was it, because there's a lot. And thank you, Christine, for the super sticker.
Okay, perfectly well said. You guys all gave some great points on that. I believe it's important to get everyone's firsthand reactions to what's going on in Afghanistan. Now I'm going to really turn into what really the corporate side of America, as well as the military industrial complex people, all those in those type of industries really feel about this. So everyone's favorite stooge, John Bolton, since everyone wants to hear what he has to say about Afghanistan, he gave a statement on this. So I'll be showing this to you guys. So let me share this on the screen, and then we'll get everyone's reactions to this. So give me a second to share audio. I'm going to share the tab, share the Twitter. So here we go. This is John Bolton. He is on CNN, and I'm going to play the clip.
First of all, in your view, was it a mistake how the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, or that it was? First of all, in your view, was it a mistake how the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, or that it withdrew at all?
Well, there are two mistakes at work here. The first is the strategic mistake of withdrawing, which Biden made, but which Trump fully supported. Had Trump been reelected, he'd be doing the same thing. On this question of withdrawal from Afghanistan, Trump and Biden are like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. The second question, though, is did the withdrawal occur in the best possible way? And the answer to that is no. It's been a catastrophe, and I'm afraid it's only going to get worse. I think Biden does bear a primary responsibility for that, although you see now fingers being pointed saying Trump didn't leave us with any plans. We'll have to see how that shakes out. There are two mistakes being made simultaneously right now.
First of all, in your view...
Okay, so that's John Bolton's first-hand account of what he feels about the situation. So right now, his pitch is he's blaming the Biden administration, and he's also blaming Trump. So anybody want to take a shot at this to get their opinions on what John Bolton is saying here?
Nobody cares about what that walrus has to say. I'm sorry.
Why?
You're not wrong, JB.
Why do they have John Bolton talking about the Afghanistan war? Like, he hasn't been wrong on every single foreign policy take that the United States ever have. But why didn't they invite Barbara Lee? You guys got to ask yourself these questions. And if you guys don't know, Barbara Lee was the only person who voted against Afghanistan. So this is how the propaganda in this country works. When I say the United States is the most propaganda country in the world, it's the subtle stuff. Like who they ask to come on. Why are they asking John Bolton to come on instead of Barbara Lee? Why aren't you having the Gray Zone people on to explain why the situation in Afghanistan is the way it is?
Yep.
Hell, why not have Noam Chomsky on? He's been banned from corporate media. So that's why the numbers are the way. I'll present this after we have A1 take, but I want to share how effective the media has been in order to manufacture consent towards war. It's the small stuff like this where they only allow the pro-war people to come on, so it only paints one narrative. And the fact that John Bowen like isn't in prison, let alone given a platform on these corporate news networks, it blows me away that there's still people that believe these are liberal stations. I think I was saying it on MSNBC. Like I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. Well, I think I was saying it, wasn't it? But they always say these are like liberals, like news stations. Like they interviewing John Bolton and giving him validity. That's insane amount of propaganda. Anyone else have anything else? But let's say the only thing I always had to say is why they're interviewing him instead of someone who got this actually right.
Well, it's also too the Democrats are being more CIA, more pro CIA, FBI, military industrial complex than the Republicans are right now. And also, John Bolton is also a never Trumper and a resistor, and he's joined the Democrats. So now CNN and MSNBC find it more inclined for their business model to have him on because they know viewers can go look at Bolton as some trusted hero, and so is mainstream media. But I do want to hear Meg and Sabby's thoughts on this as well. So let's go with Meg first, and then Sabby.
I mean, yeah, I don't really see much use of really talking about what he said. Like, yeah, Trump is what's really funny about this whole thing is that we have basically, but like people saying like, oh, it's Biden's fault, oh, it's Trump's fault. Well, George W. Bush is just sitting in a corner drinking a milkshake. Like, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Like, it didn't matter if we left, under Obama. It didn't matter if we left under Trump. It doesn't matter if we just now left under Biden. If we left in 20 years from now, it was always going to end poorly, because we should never have been there in the first place. Like, we were always going to have the Taliban and other groups. One of the reasons the Taliban became so strong is because they were recruiting people, because they were saying, oh, look at the U.S., the foreign invader. So this was always going to end this way. To say that it was going to end any other way, that whatever strategy you had in place in order to withdraw our troops, it was always going to end this way. There was always going to be this panic and this kind of disorganization. I don't know what else to say about it. He's just an idiot. He's an idiot. Like, it didn't matter how whatever Trump decided to do it, however Biden decided to do it. It would have ended poorly no matter what. That's all I'll say about it.
Perfectly well said there, Meg. Sabby, what are your thoughts on this John Bolton video? Do you think it's going to have any type of impact? What's your thoughts?
I don't. It's just like, it's John Bolton. I mean, it's I agree with Meg. Like, it's just, we should have never been there in the first place. We stayed there too long. I mean, imagine if, I want everybody, like, put yourself in their shoes for a moment. Imagine if, like, during, the George Floyd incidents is the most recent one I can think of. The George Floyd incidents and all the protests that were happening in this country. Imagine if the military from another country, let's say, I don't know, England or something, came to the United States to shut it all down. How would we feel if someone from an army from another country came to the US to stop what was happening in our country? I know I would feel like, well, I guess we don't have any say-so in our own country. Another country is trying to police us. And see, that's the thing. It's easier to say, yes, we should be there, or yes, we should pull out immediately. It's easy to make those, decisions when it's not the other way around. It's not happening to us. And I think that's part of the problem. We don't have that happen here. When is the last time another country came into the United States and just took over and occupied and told us what we could do, where we could go? Imagine if they told women here, this is how you're going to dress from now on. Like, we haven't had this happen, not in my generation. So that's a big part of the problem. But I don't care about John Bolton. He's irrelevant to me.
Perfectly well said there, Savvy. I think we can really continue on this topic of Afghanistan, really getting other people's firsthand accounts of really what's going on. It really does show how different segments of people really in America right now think about really this situation going on with Afghanistan right now. More specifically, we have many other people we see online left Twitter giving their takes about it. You see Kyle Kalinske give his takes, Crystal Ball, Saga, and Marianne Williamson as well. I believe JB has the tweets from Marianne Williamson. I had to get some screenshots, but before then, I'll show the ones of Kyle Kalinske at first, because this is pretty concerning. So let me put this on the screen for you guys.
You got it?
For which one? The Marianne Williamson or the Kyle Kalinske one?
I have all those.
Oh, well, you can just do it then.
Okay.
I said we all can do it.
So which one? You want the Marianne Williamson or Kyle Kalinske?
Do Kyle Kalinske first.
Okay.
Yeah, I just felt those tweets were pretty interesting because you're getting different takes on it. So Kyle Kalinske right now is saying that he'll be basically a Biden bro, or riding with the Biden based on Biden's stances on Afghanistan right now. So it says the first one, this is one of the first segments of tweets he gave. He says, gradually morphing into a Biden bro as I see all of political media and every wing of the two major parties go after him for the best thing he ever did. I believe there's a few more tweets. Can you show the next one, JB?
Yeah, sure. I just have to.
All right, no problem. Yeah, I know it takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, and the
There
next
you
one
go.
it says is if Biden also pulls out of Iraq, I'll offer my services as White House press secretary. So you see something really all around based on really the first parts of what's going on. I actually really have so Crystal Ball also tweets out based off of a Biden speech that he gave. He kind of gave like a more of a address to the nation based off what's going on with Afghanistan. It's not on the screen, but I'll read it for you guys right now.
I'm
She
getting it right
says
now.
that. Oh, you got it right now. Go ahead.
Hmm. Got it.
Okay, so that tweet also says that Biden's speech wasn't perfect, but it may be the most honest foreign policy speech from an American president in my lifetime. I'll show one more tweet from really Sagar, what he said
I
on
got
this
that
as
too.
well. Well, you got that too. You got everything. Damn, JB got everything.
So you want Sagar's tweet? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll just full send
All
on all the ones I
right.
sent you.
All right.
Okay, this is one from Sagar and Jetty. He is the co-host of Breaking Points with Crystal Ball. Biden, I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there is never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces. So that's what Biden said on that. Also, there isn't a tweet I sent you, JB, but Sagar also tweeted out. He's basically telling MAGA to go cope based on what's pulling off in Afghanistan, because it's kind of crazy how you see some MAGA people now are criticizing Biden for pulling out at all from Afghanistan, which goes completely against what their dear leader Trump wanted to do in the first place. And
Yeah.
so, really, there's also one more tweet from Marianne Williamson that JB is going to show on the screen. It really was pretty concerning. I believe it's been since deleted, so you kind of have to get screenshots to actually understand what's going on here. But I think
Yeah.
it's really important. Well, I'm just going to ramble while JB is getting that up. But it's really important to really get people's takes on this, so you can watch it out, call it out, or make some critiques of your own if you feel it's necessary. So that's pretty small, but I'll have to
Sorry.
really get in to read that. So he says, Mary Williamson says, we went into Afghanistan to rid the country of Al Qaeda. It wasn't straight out military imperialism like Iraq. Supposedly, we need to defeat the Taliban because they harbored Al Qaeda. So that was a lot of extra work reading these tweets, getting them out for you guys. So I really want to throw it to you guys to get your thoughts, not only on maybe Kyle Kalinske, but Crystal Ball or Marianne Williamson or what Sagar said, because there are some arguments being made here. You could make the argument that Kyle Kalinski's tweets and his opinions about what's going on in Afghanistan could be more surface level, and he's not really looking at the substantial, deeper issues as you dive deep into the issue about what the impacts are of the troops pulling out of Afghanistan. Our very own Nick says all the time, and he's predicted that the Biden administration is going to privatize this war, and it's not as good as it is intended. You also have Marianne Williamson's tweets and many other different types of people where it's making the argument that a lot of the women will be impacted if the U.S. troops pull out of Afghanistan. So I do want to get all of your thoughts first, but I do want to pull it to Meg and Sabby first. So what are you guys' thoughts?
Sabi, you want to go first?
Okie doke. I have to give a shout out to Rome, because Rome called this months ago. A lot of people don't know this, but like back in the day, before like FHL started, I interviewed Rome on my channel, and Rome predicted that this would happen. He said that now that Biden has won, there isn't going to be money on the left. There isn't going to be so much money on the right. All the money is going to be in the center. And he predicted that this would happen, that you would see people move further and further to the center, because that's where the money is right now. Especially like if you're looking at YouTube algorithm, right? How do you get around the algorithm? You say good things about Biden. And so this is something I want people to understand. They may not actually believe these things, but they know how to tweak it and how to work the system so that they can get around the algorithm and so that they can still make money doing what they do. You also have to keep in mind, we are not in an election season. So how are you going to continue to get views? A lot of this goes back to what goes on YouTube and Twitter and all these social media sites, especially when they started to like censor people. So when I see these statements like made by them, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like they're just playing the game. And what I would tell people is maybe not read into it so seriously. Like when people posted the one from Kyle or whatever, at first I thought maybe that's like sarcasm. I don't know. I don't really care. But that's something I want people to keep in mind. If you notice that you see people on the left moving further towards the center and praising Joe Biden, that is where the money is. And we can even tell you that like ourselves, like what we talk about on here. This is like free information for you guys. Like we're not wealthy. Like these people are wealthy. They make a lot of money off of what they do. So this is why I tell you just be careful about just taking that word for it, taking their word for it and just going with it and do more research. But after Biden won, Crystal and Kyle were already praising Biden and nothing had even been done yet. So I knew they were heading in this direction. And so for me, it's not a surprise. Marianne Williamson, like I like Marianne Williamson. I've interviewed her before. Um, I have never agreed with her on foreign policy, though. I think that's where we differ, but she does have good takes and she has moved further left on other issues. So that one again doesn't surprise me, but we saw this coming, guys. We saw this happening with Benjamin Dixon. We saw this happening with Humanist Report, David Dole. All these people are moving further and further to the center because that is where the money is. So that's something I want people to keep in mind. And you may see a shift when we get around election season. When that happens again, they may go further back to the left if we have a strong candidate that's running on the left. So it's unfortunate that it's come to that. But again, like some people know how to play the game and that's how they make money.
Perfectly well said, Sammy. Loved your insight on that. Meg, what are your thoughts on really all these different tweets and different angles we see? We kind of have like an anti-war versus anti-imperialism argument. And what are your thoughts on really Kyle and Crystal's stance on this as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. I see a few different people commenting about. I guess like Kyle was being sarcastic, and he like talked about it on a show. I haven't seen those episodes, so I can't really verify that or not. But I mean, I'll just start with Marianne Williamson because that's the one that I know a lot about. And I just said I just did a whole episode knocking down imperialist feminism because that's what this is. And it's funny, I was just reading up too because I'm very like you all know I'm a big feminist. And I was reading the introduction to this issue of a journal that I like, but the issue was all about the writing of feminism, meaning a right-wing turn in feminism, meaning that a more conservative turn in feminism. And one of those moves was towards feminationalism. And feminationalism is basically saying that there is a Western supremacy that is occurring. But let me find the exact description here. That way you guys can understand what exactly this means. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so... Sorry, give me 2 seconds. Because I was reading it earlier, and I just want to make sure I found it. Okay. Sorry, come back to me in 2 seconds. I just need to find it.
Okay, no problem. Let's get JB and let's get Nick in here. What are your thoughts on really what's going on with the different takes people had about the Afghanistan situation we have right now?
I mean, look, my thing is, I don't, even if Kyle Kalinske is saying that he's being sarcastic, here's the thing. Why are they believing Biden is saying that he's pulling out? Like, some people say, oh, I'll give credit to where credit is due. I'm like, yeah, but you're giving credit for something that hasn't happened yet. Like, they're still in the country. And here's my position. We're not fully pulled out until every single soldier is out of there, every single base is out of there, and we have no presence in there. By my logic, if we're supposed to have no presence in there, then guess what? That means We're still at war in Germany. We're still at war in France. We're still at war in Korea. We're still at war in China. We're still at war in all these different places where we still have bases everywhere. So, therefore, the thing is, the United States has never stopped being at war with any one of these countries for the last 150 years. So that means that we have been at war with the entire world this entire time. Why do we still have bases there? Why? Because the thing is, here's the thing: we're still at war. The only difference is there just isn't any conflict going on right now. We're still at war in these countries, and people want to say, "Oh, well, we're not fighting." Yeah, but we're still at war because if you still have bases there, there's still war going on. So the thing is that we're going to be at war with Afghanistan, and we're still going to be at war with Afghanistan for years to come because they don't want to leave. And the thing is it's just like the comedian Eddie Griffin said. He said, "Wherever we go, we don't leave. It's no longer the United States of America. It's now the United Empire of Earth. That's what it is." And the thing is that we will never end a war, and that's what the United States does. So to say that the wars are ended, no. The Vietnam War probably never ended because we probably still have a base there too. So look, let's not kid ourselves. There will always continue to have a war, and it's always going to be this the excuse. Oh, well, we got to make sure that we protect ourselves by being abroad. China ain't got to be over everywhere to protect themselves. You don't see Russia having millions of bases around the world just try to protect themselves. Why are we there anyway? It's because the United States has that imperialistic mindset and they just want to rule as much as they can all over the world and take as much of the resources as they can all over the world. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, give credit where credit is due when it is warranted. But right now, I don't see that credit warranted.
Well said there, JB. Nick, what are your thoughts on everything?
This is why you guys should check out Freyhampton Leftists. You guys covered what they do, and I really agree with Savvy's take. Like, they're hustling you guys. I don't know if you guys. I know this a while ago. That's why I kind of stopped watching them. I used to watch a lot of independent media, especially when I used to work. I used to watch Kyle. I used to watch all these people. Then I kind of realized it was a hustle. Now this is what they say. Now I'm not gonna go too hard on Kyle because there's a chance that he was playing around. I still don't like it, but I'm not gonna drag someone so hard for maybe making a bad joke. But what I'm gonna say, and this is what his logic is. He said, "Oh, well, if we don't praise Joe Biden when he does well, what is his incentive for doing well from now on?" That is an elementary level take of politics. They not reading your tweets. They're not watching your channel. And if they was, they're not listening to you. That's his excuse so he can do that, so he can have liberal viewers. They work backwards for the conclusion. He need liberal viewers, so he got to make excuses on why he sound like a liberal, why he covered Tucker Carlson all the time. Oh, we got to debunk Tucker. Bro, you can just talk to conservatives and flip them that way. I flip conservatives without even talking about Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. Them. They just do it for clicks. Now, once again, I'm not trying to go too hard on them, but I'm going to just examine their logic here. Where they're like, oh, well, you got to praise this politician. If you praise them, if you don't praise them, they have no reason to listen to you. That is ahistorical. So if we praise Joe Biden for quote unquote leaving Afghanistan, even though he's not leaving, even though the fact that they said when they pulled out of Afghanistan, they said they're going to invest money so they can do covert operations. Are you an anti-imperialist or not? Because as an anti-imperialist, that means you're still involved. And that's why I was telling you guys, now they are starting the mission creep. The mission creep being like, oh, we may have to keep troops here longer until we can make sure all the Americans are safe. And this is what they just said yesterday. It may be past the August 30th deadline. That's what they call a mission creep. So now what's going to happen in 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, I can easily see them saying the headline like, oh my God, the Taliban killed the American soldier. And then, we got to send some more troops because this is what they do. So what I'm saying that we got to maintain the most amount of skeptical thought behind our government, because we got to keep the pressure on them so they can follow up on their promises. So what the same thing these people was doing, they were like, oh my God, look at Biden's platform. I ain't talking about Kyle specifically, but there were a lot of these people that were like, look at Biden's platform. Then he didn't do his platform, and then they was caught praising Joe Biden for no reason. You see what I'm saying? Why praise the politician for no reason instead of keeping pressure on? Instead of like, oh my God, I'm a Biden bro now because he pulled out of Afghanistan. So let me assume best case scenario where Biden actually accomplishes goal. So what? So what? Like, okay, you put out Afghanistan. Keep that same energy for Iraq. Keep that same energy when you start bombing Africa. You should use this as an example to debunk and criticize them more. So you said you see the validity of pulling out of Afghanistan, but you don't see the validity of pulling out of these other wars. Instead of praising Biden, that the kind of awareness you should be spreading, right? That's how we fight the propaganda. That's how we keep the pressure on politicians. And these people just want to praise these politicians instead of just debunking the narrative. That's why you see United States people. You see polls showing people they want to stay in Afghanistan because they're not being exposed to the skeptical side of this. Like, oh, wait, what actually going on here? We should be challenging these people and make sure they follow through on their promises, not just plainly just praising them. I saw the tweet they showed from Siger, who I don't have a strong opinion either, or I don't expect him to be great, but he was just repeating something that Biden said, and where he was like, "Oh, well, just always been consistent on it." No, you have not. You got the tweet. You got to show the tweet so I don't butcher it. But Siger put out a tweet where he's like, "Well, Biden was like, yo, I always believe this stuff. You was vice president for 8 years under Afghanistan, where they expanded Afghanistan, where that was Barack Obama. This is what these people need to be calling out instead of just being stenographers to power." So once again, I'm not gonna go too hard because it seemed like they were joking, but I just want to like Sabby said. I think Sabby had an amazing breakdown. They're kind of hustling y'all because they do that so they can get liberal views, and it's good for the algorithm. I think that it's not like valuable insight though. So that's my take on it. I'll pass it back to you, RJ.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So, love your insights on that. There's one more tweet, but I just thought that was pretty interesting. Michael Moore, he said some pretty cringe shit lately. He basically blamed the Texan citizens for voting for Republicans for the reason why they couldn't have power during when they had the largest freeze outs and their power was out, no running water. So he had that cringe tweet back then, but he also put another cringe tweet out. He compared what happened in January 6th and the people who stormed the Capitol. He compared those to the Taliban. So to go on to go on that tweet, it says Michael Moore says they're Taliban, our Taliban. Everybody's got a Taliban. They're at least best when they confiscate the halls of power. So yeah, he says some pretty cringe shit. So I don't even know if anyone wants to comment on that, but my mind has just been crazy from many different takes from people. So any thoughts, and then we can move on to really what's going on with Haiti.
I just wanted to say that if you guys think back on it, like on the left, we pretty much had a really good ride for like, what, 4 years, 8 years, maybe, because Bernie ran twice in a row. So if you were on the left and you were doing leftist commentary during the time when Bernie was running, you really had a good ride because you could talk about Bernie for, 2016 going through, and then he said he was running again in 2020. Then you get to talk about him in 2020. You really had a good ride.
We
But
got this getting too late.
yes, yeah. So no, Nick is exactly right. So once Bernie, conceded and backed Joe Biden, I think that's when a lot of people who were doing this, it was like, uh-oh, what do we talk about now? Because there wasn't someone on the left who was running in a significant race. So people had to like shuffle and like come up with different strategies and like, what am I going to talk about now and still keep viewers engaged and all of that kind of stuff. And I think there was some of that going on. But yeah, like for those of us who got into this after Bernie dropped out, we didn't have anybody to push like for you. So we really had a more difficult time. Plus, we're not on the corporate algorithm, and some of these shows are. And I think that's just really important. Like, you see the change. You see the change in the rhetoric. If you go try to watch their shows now, you see how their messages change. It's all going further to the center. And anybody, those of us still on the left, now we're the ones being called radical. We're the ones being called divisive. But those same people back when Bernie was running said we needed to be that way. Now they're saying something different. So you have to ask yourself who's real, who's really in this for the fight, and who's just in it for the money.
Before we, if you don't mind, RJ, I just want to
Go ahead.
before we wrap up on Afghanistan, because I've hinted at this a few times. And I want you guys to understand the importance of independent media and a free media, because corporate media and the establishment has adjusted to the internet era way better than people give them credit for. And that's why you see them consolidating power with big tech companies and focusing on censorship. That's a part of their adjustment. But because they adjusted to the internet and they got better than propaganda and the new age information, we need strong independent media that they just don't want liberal clicks. We don't want we're not aiming for liberal clicks. Let me just say that. We are unapologetically fighting for black liberation in the U.S. imperialism. We're not here to praise politicians. So this is why it's so important for us to be pushing back against corporate manufacturing of consent instead of just praising them. Because now this came out from more console like 2 days ago, where support for Afghanistan tumbled. It dropped significantly because of corporate media propaganda that we've been trying our best to fight against. Now we don't have anywhere near the platform that a lot of these other people has. But imagine if instead of like taking the time to praise Joe Biden, they was actually setting the record straight on why we should leave Afghanistan in the first place. I'm not calling anyone out. I'm saying this is what we need a more concerted effort on doing instead of just backing up Democrats. Now this is what I want to share with you guys. Support for withdrawal fell 15 points among Democrats, 21 among Republicans, 25 among independents. 51% of voters disapprove of Biden handling Afghanistan. 54% plurality of voters said they believe the United States should not withdraw. Now, that's a 20-point drop from where it started overall. Now, what I've been hammering at over and over again, and like I said, I know those images were devastating to see, but you need to learn, and I shared earlier before, so I don't want to get back into it, the United States cost in Afghanistan and what exactly you guys are saying. The media is misleading people because they make people believe there's a win condition. If we stayed in and we stayed for another 3 years, Taliban taking over in 3 years. If we pulled out in 2016, the Taliban would have took over in 2016. If we pulled out in 2012, the Taliban would have took over in 2012. So what you are saying when you say you want to stay in Afghanistan, you are saying you want a permanent occupation of Afghanistan. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Do they get Congress people? Do they get 2 senators? Like what are we saying? We essentially annexing that country. That's what people are saying. They don't even understand there's not a accomplishable mission in Afghanistan. But that last thing I want to share because it's so important, and I saw that and my heart dropped this morning because that just show how like we always want to mock, and you see a lot of these shows like how and they mocking like the corporate media ratings, but don't get it twisted, guys. They are still insanely powerful. I think they're misleading you guys on that too because they just kind of want to pat themselves on their own back, like, oh look how much better we're doing. No, they're still incredibly powerful. They still managed to drop the support point out Afghanistan by 20 points in only a short amount of time. So we gotta keep the pressure on. The idea of praising politicians, how you get them dragged to us, that's ridiculous. That's what they want to tell you. No, if they do something good, okay, do something else good. Do something else good. Get back to work. Like we get nothing out of it. We get nothing out of praising politicians without, I should say prematurely. Literally nothing. But they need to get something out of it because they get Biden bros that are more likely to click on their page now. I hope that's clear. But back to you, RJ.
Very well said. Anybody else got anything to say before we move on?
Can I finish my point that I was making earlier? I found what I was looking for.
Oh, go ahead.
Is that okay, RJ? Okay. Do you want me to put it up so that way people can see
Yep, go ahead.
What I'm actually talking about? Okay. All right. So I was talking about, sorry, my computer's taking a couple seconds. It's like, come on, speed up. Hate when that happens. All right. Tell me when you can see it.
We still see it, but we're still waiting on you. Oh, there it goes. It's popping up. It's okay. Loading. It's buffering, though.
All right. So what is happening with when you see in the media and like what Marianne Williamson is saying, the way that they're framing this argument as saying like, oh, we need to go in to save the women. What this is, as Ferris says here, is called femo nationalism. The femo nationalism is described as both the attempts of Western European right-wing parties and neoliberals to advance xenophobic and racist politics through the touting of gender equality, as well as the involvement of various well-known feminists and femocrats and the current framing of Islam as quintessentially misogynistic religion and culture. This is about xenophobia and misogyny. Right. All right. So it's symptomatic, she continues to say, it is symptomatic of a certain Western supremacist mindset that foregrounds the non-Western subject as inherently inferior and as the expression of specific political economic arrangements. All right. So basically what that's saying is that a lot of the reason that we are saying, oh, we need to save women is, oh, we're saying they can't save themselves. They are incapable. They are helpless. They have no agency. It is looking down on non-Western women and saying that Western women are superior because we have feminism, we have equality, we have empowerment. You stole their empowerment when you intervened. That's what happened. So when Marianne Williamson is saying we need to go in order to save women, that is a xenophobic and femo-nationalist point of view. And this is not like saying that, right-wingers are co-opting feminism. This is a right-wing version of feminism using gender equality as a way of shielding their racism and their xenophobia. And also the fact that they want to go into these countries for strategic means, whether that's getting minerals such as opium, which guess what opium is used for? One of our biggest industries, guys. Pharma. And guess what they're looking at? Oxycodone, which is an opioid, meaning opium. And that's what everybody in this country is getting addicted to right now. Opium is used in opioids. So when you have opium fields in Afghanistan that you can exploit, yeah, you're going to want to stay there. The fact that Russia is right by Afghanistan and China is right by Afghanistan is a good geopolitical spot in which to set up camp. That way, have strategic, just like Turkey, another strategic area in which they can keep an eye on Russia and China and have power in that region. This has nothing to do with saving women, because if it did, maybe they would be taking on Saudi Arabia, who is not only, hurting women. Saudi Arabia is also bankrolling the Taliban, who just took over in Afghanistan. So in that way, the United States is supporting Saudi Arabia, not only in Yemen. We're helping them with their genocide in Yemen, but we're also supporting Saudi Arabia in supporting the Taliban, who are now taking over Afghanistan, and we're leaving. I'm sorry, how exactly does that make sense? That we are both the saviors, but also the oppressors of the women, because we are tangentially funding the Taliban. How does that make any sense whatsoever? It doesn't. So the fact that we are continuing all of this bullshit in the name of saving women is complete and utter horse crap. So Marianne Williamson, she needs to learn her place, because she doesn't know what the F she's talking about. Maybe she should talk to a few more feminist speakers and get her head out of her ass, because what she's touting is just justifying a war that we should have never have been in for something that we're not even doing. We weren't saving them when we were there. We're not saving them by leaving and taking them with us. Because even if we were to, I honestly hope that we are good to whatever refugees come out of Afghanistan. But a lot of what is going to happen too is that they're going to, if we do have refugees, that they're going to be shepherded into low-income jobs that, guess what, prop up professional women. Because when you have women who are rising in the ranks, who are they going to hire in order to fulfill that social reproduction that they're not doing? Refugee, minority, and immigrant women. This is all neoliberal politics, guys. That's what this is. They're fucking with you. I don't even know what else to say about it.
The frustrating thing, and one last thing I want to add with Marianne, the frustrating thing with her is how there was a lot of lefties who wanted Marianne Williamson to do well. So while she was having her bad Afghanistan takes, if you read her threads where she was getting ratioed to death, there was a lot of good information because there's a lot of lefties who like Marianne who was like, "Hey, Marianne, hey, stop. This is why." I went through those threads and I was learning stuff. And I'm like, okay, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, and I was using her getting ratioed as a source of learning new information. So what was very suspect is the fact that there was a ton of information that I know for a fact that Marianne saw, but she was still doubling down. Now that's kind of weird because I am very humble. Like I promise you that if I'm wrong on something, I would try my best to correct and try to get better at that. But despite the fact that he had a ton of people that was pointing out to Marianne Williamson why feminist imperialism isn't a thing, she still was like, "Nope, shut up, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. I have my preconceived ideas. I'm not gonna listen to you." Now that's shady to me. Like not being wrong is the fact that he had all these lefties. Even now, I'm not talking about just faithless accounts. I mean, there was blue checks, like very influential lefty blue checks, like, "Hey, Marianne, you're wrong here, and this is why." But she still doubled down. What is that? That kind of stuff that's kind of shady to me. But anyway, back to you, RJ.
Well, what I gotta say is Killjoy Meg, everybody. Good night. She just blew it out of the water. That's why I do like listening to you guys and hearing you guys' takes because it's important, and you guys bring different perspectives to the table about different issues that's going on. So I feel like not only the audience but me for myself got 4 different type of angles on really the situation that's going on. And thanks, Nick, for your comments as well regarding and also too, Nick admitted too, like sometimes these threads people just want the information to be true out. So if you're someone that's on the left or perceived to be on the left, people want to present you the best information you can so that you can make your points better and make your arguments better and also make your ideology better. So it's not necessarily a call out, but a call in. And so if you continue to double down and people are presenting you information that is true and you just don't want to hear it, then that just looks bad on you. So I think we talked about Afghanistan pretty well and pretty thorough on the panel roundtable today, but I do want to move into what's going on in Haiti, specifically climate change and how it's really affecting multiple countries across really the world due to sea level rise, due to temperatures rising as well, which also creates disastrous storms across the world. And so we have one story on what's going on in Haiti right now. So I'll put this on the screen and we'll get some thoughts as I read through the article a little bit. This really drew my attention and drew a lot of people's attention on FHL as well. So here it goes here. So on the screen here, it shows that Tropical Storm Grace, heavy rains pour misery on Haiti's earthquake survivors. So many of you, if you didn't know, Haiti had earthquakes prior to getting this tropical storm. So not only did they have earthquakes, which really impacted their land, but sometimes depending on where an earthquake is happening geographically, it could produce a tsunami. So you could have that type of effects as well. But just to be accurate, it had a tropical storm subsequently afterwards. So it goes on here, it says Tropical Storm Grace has lashed southern Haiti with drenching rains piling on misery for survivors of a powerful earthquake as flash floods, landslides further complicate relief efforts. So if you get a multiples amounts of rain and if it goes into the soil too quickly, the soil gets loose, you could have landslides, which can kill hundreds to thousands of people depending on really how high the land is in terms of the land level rise. Because if the type of multiple flooding that happens, it could definitely increase the likelihood of not only a landslide happening, but the disastrous effects as well. So during this, power was still out, communication spotty on Tuesday morning in parts of southern Haiti after inches of heavy rain, 35-mile-per-hour winds burrowed down, and just 2 days after it was hit at the 7.2 magnitude earthquake. That's pretty high. I believe the Richter scale goes up to like 10, doesn't it? Don't quote me on that. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say here, rainfall turned the streets of Haiti's quake struck Tiburon Peninsula, rivers within a few minutes of Tropical Storm Grace making landfall on the island of Hispaniola, which Haiti shares with the Dominican Republic. Rain fell at a rate of 2 inches an hour. That's a lot across much of the region. So as the rain continued to pelt down on Tuesday, Haitian officials raised the confirmed death toll from Saturday's 7.2 earthquake to 1,941, with more than close to 10,000 injured and 30,000 people left homeless, which is pretty concerning as well. So the rescue workers also helped to find survivors. So I do want to stop here. So what are you guys' immediate thoughts on everything I've read so far and really what's going on with Haiti in terms of not only the earthquakes, but the flash flooding, the landslide risk, and also multiple different people being injured and killed. So what are you guys' thoughts so far?
The poor people of Haiti, like, that's a cursed island. It's like they just had the earthquake. and now they got this storm. So it was like, as soon as I saw that story, I was just like, man, they cannot get a break. And the more depressing thing is, things are not gonna get any better, because as climate change continues to get worse, and we are in the climate crisis, it's already too late to stop it. We're gonna see more of these devastating weather events, and places like Haiti is gonna continue to be devastated. And there are many other places across the world that, and I'm looking in particularly like sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, that are going to be uninhabitable, and you're going to have massive amount of refugees and the migration crisis. So all the conservatives who didn't want to take climate crisis seriously, now you got a much more larger problem on your hand, the massive migration problem that's going to happen very soon. And with that said, we also have COVID-19. And another thing that scientists said, that you're going to see an increase of these pandemics. You're going to see more of these pandemics as the climate crisis get worse. So once again, just horrific to see. Like, these people are cursed. I just want the best for them. That's all I have. Like, it just, I don't know how humanity gonna continue to move forward, because we're gonna see more of this kind of stuff, and you're gonna see millions and millions and countless amount of people, countless. I don't even want to say million, because it'd be countless amount of people that are gonna be displaced from their homes in the next 15 to 20 years. One last thing, just keep the Hillary Clinton Foundation away from this, please. So
Yeah. Anyone else have any firsthand thoughts, Meg, Sabby, or JB?
Yeah, so one of the things about what's going on in Haiti is this is one of the reasons why, if our country did things that were good for the world, then they would be one of the closest countries that could help Haiti in a substantial way. Um, just imagine if we didn't spend all of our money in the military industrial complex, and we actually had um, a a system where we had disaster relief for surrounding nations. We could quickly mobilize and get down there and use, for instance, our Army Corps of Engineers, and we could use the humanitarian help, to uh, lift the people of Haiti up out of this tragedy. But unfortunately, we don't, because we have our sights and our focus so stuck on imperialism and tearing countries down, when we actually have the tools to build countries up. But we don't. And so it's just a tragedy, because it's kind of like uh, it's kind of like having someone who has a lot of potential to, help you, but instead they use their gifts for frivolous purposes, and those purposes are doing more harm than good. So I wish that we could be the country that many Americans think that we are, but unfortunately we're not. So
Perfectly well said. Sabby and Meg, do you guys want to say anything before I continue?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when the earthquake happened with Haiti, I actually did a little bit of research, because I was surprised that they were having another earthquake, because they had one about, I think that was about 10 years ago, maybe
yeah,
yeah, about 10 years ago. And so
2010.
I was curious. So I looked up the fault lines, and it turns out that Haiti does sit on an active fault line that goes through Haiti and the DR, but more so through Haiti. And that was surprising to me. I didn't realize that. I think that it's far too disappointing, because I'm thinking about all of the Haitian immigrants that Biden sent back to Haiti. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And hopefully we can get aid to them to help. Um, but I was just like, yeah, here they go again. It's like they can't catch a break.
Perfectly well said there. I want to thank Charlie Mack for the super chat. It says you're all killing it, so thank you very much for that. Meg, do you have any thoughts so far?
I mean, obviously, my heart goes out to the Haitian people. Um, Honestly, I had to reiterate a lot of what was said. You know, they just can't quite catch a break. And having, you know, earthquake and then the hurricane and everything like that, like my heart goes out to them, and I don't often pray, but I pray for, you know, their safety and that that they come out of this okay. Just kind of reiterating, even kind of jumping off of what Savvy was saying a little bit, and what JB was saying as well, is, I mean, and a lot of the chat is saying it, you know, Haiti was one of, you know, the very first slave revolts, and, you know, they have kind of been on, for a while they were on the brink of socialism, but like the United States has just been, you know, crushing Haiti. So have a lot of Europe. I mean, France made Haiti pay reparations to them, like, which is insanity. That France made Haiti pay reparations to them after they were freed. That's insanity. And they've just been ravaged over and over and over again with, you know, just the United States just crushing them as well. And then it's so weird to think that then once the United States has helped deteriorate their government, made it destabilize that nation, and it has been involved in that. They just had, you know, their president, who was not a good guy, but he was assassinated. And to think that now the United States is turning away Haitian refugees and sending back Haitian immigrants. Like, the United States has no sense of empathy and no sense of accountability. Like, you caused so many of these problems. Maybe if you hadn't worked so hard to deteriorate Haiti's government in their economy, maybe they would have the money to build their buildings to be earthquake proof, considering, as Savvy just said, they sit on a fault line. They had an earthquake in 2010. Maybe if we weren't crushing their economy, they would have money in order to build an infrastructure that could withstand earthquakes, considering they sit on a fault line. But no, the United States has no accountability whatsoever. Nor does France. And it's insane that this is what is happening. Like, I can't think I don't know what solution there is to that, but all I can say is that we need to do something to help the people of Haiti. I don't know what, but we need to do something, because what they are suffering through is grotesque. And I don't think there is another word to describe it other than just utterly grotesque. But my heart goes out to them, and what's happening to them is horrible.
I agree with what all you said about that so far. So I do want to continue on with this article, to keep going through it, really to see what more details are being shown here. So it goes on to say hospitals are already full with treating patients in patios and corridors. Medical supplies, including personal protective equipment for staffs, painkillers and splinters for patients, remain very scarce. So in the island of Haiti, what it's talking about is in terms of the medical care, hospitals are full. The type of medical supplies and type of really medical equipment you would need to provide care for patients is very scarce. It makes it difficult to provide patient care during this time, especially during a national disaster, which they're suffering through right now. We get more of a firsthand account from a 26-year-old trainee doctor from Haiti. It says the hospital is in a bad place with water filling the yard. So they are having infrastructure issues in terms of flooding, which makes it even more difficult to make sure things are sanitary. So when you're performing on patients, that they get the best care they have, so they can reduce the likelihood of getting infection or any more diseases, which could on top of what they're going through right now. So it goes on to say people are crying for help, for tents, for shelter, and for a message of hope, because it is debilitating to go through a situation like this of poverty, of pillage of your own natural resources, and to deal with the effects of climate change and also another foreign government interfering with your own. It just makes things so difficult when you combine all these different issues together. So it goes on to say Marjorie Modesty, a psychologist living in Les Cayes, who is helping to coordinate aid deliveries through a family support organization she runs, voiced similar despair. This is what the country needs: tents, food, medicine, toiletries, water, clothes, rescue equipment, and wheelchairs, said Modesty, whose own home was flooded on Monday night. People are fleeing their homes. We need rescuing. So this here image is shown as of a woman looks in a makeshift camp in Les Cayes, Haiti. So this is the image that's shown here. Goes on to say residents are fearful of entering or sleeping in their homes, worried that they may either collapse and ongoing aftershocks or flood due to storms, and instead are opting to sleep in tents or under tarps. So think about this for a second. So they have this fear that if they stay in their own home, which is refuge for many different people around the world, that if they stay in their home, it could be flooded, or due to the earthquakes having a disastrous effects on their home infrastructure, it could fall and collapse on them. So that has to be a lot of stress to endure, and people feel helpless. That's why they rather sleep under a tent and a tarp, so at least if something happens, they could be more quick and be alert. So it goes on to say here, during the earthquake, water gushes out of the soil and soaked it, making it unable to absorb the rainwater. So this is from the account of Paul Tollett, the provost of the American University of the Caribbean, who has been visiting hospitals and other affected areas of southern Haiti since the weekend. The conditions are now ripe for more problems, with so many heavily damaged constructions and serious flooding possibilities. So it goes on to say, we've seen 50% of buildings destroyed in the city and around 80% destroyed in the surrounding rural areas. Roads in and out are blocked. Even motorcycles cannot pass. By land, sea, and air, we are isolated. Two of the poorest parts of the city, La Savine and Des Forts, which are both by sea, are completely flooded. So the two main ports, not only for resources, to get boating, to get different type of supplies, are all flooded. So it makes it even more difficult to get necessary supplies for medicines, for food, and to repair infrastructure that's already been destroyed. So this is the type of disastrous effects we're seeing. So it goes on to say, because of the economic and social political crisis, and because of insecurity, there are very few agencies and NGOs working in the field in Haiti right now, especially here in the South. So the response both falls on those who are already in the field and are very few. So I did read a lot. I do want to get you guys' opinions on this based on what I said so far. If you guys like it, I can keep going, but let me know if you feel it's too much to read. But for now, I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this. So who wants to really talk about what I've talked about so far in terms of how difficult it is to get supplies because of the flooded ports, infrastructure issues, how people feel in the area of sleeping in tents rather than their home because they have to pick and choose, hey, do I want my home to topple on me or be really drowned because it may flood out my home? So what are you guys' thoughts on this so far?
Venezuela came to help. I just saw a story that said Venezuela, despite the fact that the U.S. sanctioned them to death, they are chipping in for the humanitarian effort. So that's the only thing I really had to add is
apparently Cuba too.
Yeah, and also seeing this as well. I want to add this. This came out about 3 hours ago. Scientific American. The true Haiti earthquake death toll is much worse than early official counts. A tool built by the U.S. Geological Survey suggests that the number of fatalities may range from 10,000 to 100,000 or more. So that's the only thing I want to add is those two anecdotes. But yeah, the death toll that we've seen so far is an understatement to say the least. But back to you, RJ.
Yeah, anyone else have any comments about what's going on right now? Sabby or Meg or JB?
I don't know what else more is there to say.
Yeah, it's just really sad what's going on. That was really the rest of that article. Honestly, I'm not sure what to do. We had some comments in the chat saying really don't donate to the Red Cross because of how they deal with the funds. And it didn't really help really the Haiti people in the past. Do you guys want to talk about that, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Clinton Foundation, and that's why you gotta really vet like wherever you get money to, and that's kind of why I'm anti-charity as well, because a lot of these charities, and that's completely a different thing. But when you look at charities, a lot of them are just paid overhead, where it's being paid to people who are making six-figure salaries, not actually going to the root cause. So that's just another example of what we were talking about here. A lot of times, the United States aid is also used, and I'm not saying this for this particular instance, but it's also used as a cover for imperialism as well. So it's just like you gotta be careful on what you donate to. So make sure you look for lefty sources. But that's my main thing I gotta add there.
Yeah, you had a fair point. I mean, you do have to be conscientious of who controls these type of organizations and where the money goes to. So that's why, too, you have to do your research. And it's really important to push for an open flowing information on not only who you give your money to, how it's doled out, and how the organization acts. So I do believe it's fair if you want to talk about getting help for certain nations and really how certain organizations act. So that's a fair point. If we have no more thoughts here, I do want to say we'll definitely be covering this Haiti issue even further to see really how the aftermath might go, if there's any potential storms or disasters ahead, and really how Haiti tries to repair itself. And thanks to Venezuela for stepping in and helping not only that country repair and heal, but to really make sure the situation gets better for those people. So that's something that we'll continue to cover and continue to talk about. There is one more story I want to talk about since we do have time. It's really going on with really France and different type of wildfires we're getting into. And so really what we're seeing right now is the west coast of the United States is dealing with heat, expensive heat and drought. Now we have France dealing with different types of wildfires. So I'll put this on the screen for you guys, and we can discuss this as well. This is an article by the AP Associated Press. It's going to give us some insight on this that's going on right now. So I'll share this on the screen. Give me a second. Okay, sharing screen. Getting a tab. Sharing audio. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is one by AP Associated Press. It says raging wildfires in Greece, Turkey force thousands to flee. So this really does show, too, that climate change does affect in multiple different ways. You have intensive drought, you have different fires. On the other hand, you have certain areas where you have disastrous storms, which brings landslides and flooding. So it's really the yin and yang of really what's going on across the world and how climate change affects many different types of regions. And often enough, how it changes regions over the course of time. And so here, it has raging wildfires in Greece, Turkey forced thousands to flee. It goes on to say that wildfires raged uncontrolled through Greece and Turkey for yet another day, Friday, forcing thousands to flee by land and sea and killing a volunteer firefighter on the fringes of Athens in a huge forest blaze that threatened the Greek's capital, most important national park. 8 people have died in Turkey's blazes, described as the worst in decades, has swept through swaths of the southern coast for the past 10 days. So it says in Greece, which has suffered a record heat wave, a civil protective chief, Nikos Hardielas, said Fridays face exceptional, dangerous, unprecedented conditions as they battled 154 wildfires Friday. Think about that. 154 wildfires, with 64 still burning into the night. So that has disaster effects, not only the climate, but also affecting people's homes. And that's a big impact. So it says, firsthand account, over the past few days, we have been facing a situation without precedents in our country in the intensity and wide distribution of wildfires and the new outbreaks all over Greece, he said in an evening briefing. I want to assure you that all forces available are taking part in the fight. So it's saying that they're doing many different types of effects to battle the wildfires here. They have issued evacuations order to dozens of villages across the main island and a nearby island of Evia. Also, as well as outlying settlements on the forests and fringes of Athens. Scores of homes and businesses have been destroyed and damaged, although authorities have been able to provide detailed figures. So due to the type of wildfires that are raging and also the magnitude of wildfires raging, depending on the area and which roads are blocked off, it makes it almost impossible or very difficult for really figures to get the true amounts. So you could have more damages, you could have more homes being damaged, you could also have more people dead than what's reported because of the difficulty of getting those figures. So it goes on to say, shifting winds and new flashpoints Friday afternoon caused the blazes outside Athens and Evia to repeatedly change direction, and in some cases returning to threatened areas that narrowly escaped destruction earlier this week. So many of those who don't know, so when wind changes different directions, it spreads fires in ways that you wouldn't think. So if a fire is going, let's say the northern direction, if the wind blows in the south, it can bring it right back to where it was destroying parts of the land. So it becomes very unpredictable about where these wildfires will surge and where it will go. So it also makes it even more difficult for the relief efforts, because if you have firefighters, different type of personnel go out to the lands to try to treat these fires or evacuate people, if the wind changes sporadically in different directions, it just makes it even more difficult to save people. And at some points, it may be even more difficult to even have an evacuation effort. Wow, I probably talked a lot. So let's see you guys' thoughts on this. Yeah, what are your thoughts on really what's happening with Greece and France right now in terms of the raging wildfires, changing directions, which could be really troubling at times, the evacuation efforts as well. So what are you guys' thoughts on that so far?
It's really sad because Greece is also going through tremendous economic issues as well right now. So I can't imagine like having to deal with that. Like apparently it's incredibly hard to find a job in Greece, and also having to deal with environmental issues as well. But other than that, all I can say is like the earth is like screaming for attention. Like the earth is on fire. And it doesn't help when we have people in office that when they have a chance to implement some type of climate reform, instead they say we are going to research it. That's what they put in the infrastructure bill. We already have researched climate. They didn't say anything about fracking, none of those things. And so we have to prepare for these catastrophes because they're going to continue to happen. Because again, like I said, the earth is on fire. We have so much pollution, so many, toxic gases in the air. I mean, just look at if you drive to work, look at how many cars are on the road, how many pollutants go out into the air, so this is going to be an ongoing issue, and it's only going to get worse unless we change the way that we live and the way that we do things on this planet.
Very well said there, Sabby. Did I actually click out? I thought, okay, my computer's slow. My fault. Very well said there, Sabby. We appreciate your insight on that. JB, Nick, Meg, do you have any thoughts on really what I'm reading so far, what's going on in France as well as Greece in terms of climate change and its effects, really of the disastrous fires that's been going on throughout the region?
Sorry, JB.
No. I have something to say, but it's completely unrelated to this topic. But you go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of bouncing off of what Sabby was saying about, the fact that we're still in apparently research mode over climate change, even though we've been researching climate change since the 1970s. Like, the research is in, guys. The world is burning. Look around you. France is on fire. Greece is on fire. Turkey was on fire. The tundra in Siberia was at one point on fire. Like, I think there's droughts in the western United States. Cape Town in South Africa has almost run out of water. I think, look around. I think it's all in. I think we can realize that, yeah, climate change is real. Stop saying climate change is real. We all know it's real. Let's start getting the solutions. And let's get to the fact that just 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global emissions. 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global emissions. What exactly are we doing about that? What are we doing about the fact that our military is one of the biggest polluters in the entire world? What are we doing about that? Absolutely freaking nothing. We're still in research mode. That's what we're putting funding into. It's laughable. France is on fire. We have people who are dying because of these fires. We have whole landscapes, historical landscapes that are being destroyed. We have tundra that is being destroyed. And guess what happens when tundra is destroyed and it is melted? There are ancient diseases that are in that ice that are now going to be released. You think this pandemic is bad? Just wait until those ancient diseases start coming back and start killing people off that way. We are in a crisis. And if we don't get our shit together, I don't even think do we really think that we have 10 years? Do we really think we have 10 years if we have people dying in fires, dying in mudslides, dying in floods and earthquakes, dying of, just diseases that are going to be springing up out of the tundra because the tundra has all melted away because of both fires and because our planet is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. The research is in. We don't need to do any more research. Look around you. What more evidence do you need? Just do something. $3.5 trillion is going to do jack shit. Even Bernie's $16 trillion Green New Deal got us to par. It was not going to fix any of the problems. It was going to get us to par. So it's going to get us to a point where we could actually solve the problems. We can't solve any problems with the infrastructure bill that they have. There's nothing, like, I don't know what it is that they want us to scream it. How much more do we have to scream into the ether? Just do something. Like, stop wasting your power, stop wasting your leverage, and just do something. If you're not going to do it, who is? Like, I'm getting so frustrated, like, with this whole inside-outside game argument that we're continuing to have. It's like, there's no wonder people are sick of electoralism when they're not fucking doing anything. Fight! That's all we're asking you to do, is just fucking fight. The world is burning. Like, what else do you want us to say?
Very well said there, Meg. I love your passionate rant. And I do think we need to be wary, too, of greenwashing. And I talked about this on my show with my friend Chad earlier on a couple months ago. You could check out the clip. But greenwashing really is essentially when you have these different types of corporations selling you different types of product or different types of tools they're using to better climate change, when in reality, it's actually worse than the previous methods. And so I know we just bashed Michael Moore earlier on this show, but his film, Planet of the Humans, perfectly highlights really how these different type of corporations and really billionaires like...
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you for 1 second, but just what Eric was just saying. The fact that Biden is creating more drilling permits. Biden is a climate denier if he's going to continue those permits. I just have to say that.
Perfectly well said there, Meg. That's okay. and just to continue on what I was saying, like Planet of the Humans is a good movie. It really highlights many of these billionaires, different corporations that are really trying to, trying to attach themselves to this new wave of climate change. And a lot of their solutions actually make the situation worse, specifically, burning natural resources like trees instead of using oil, and saying that that's a better means of fighting climate change. So in reality, that's just as worse. As well as different types of minerals and materials that are being used to create these solar wind panels, and it just makes it just as worse as well. So check out that film too if you want to know more about greenwashing and the disastrous effects these billionaires and corporations have, which makes the climate crisis even worse. So JB and Nick, do you guys want to say anything about what we've been talking about so far with really the fires that's going on in France and Greece?
So we have crazy earthquakes in Haiti. We have crazy wildfires in France, Greece. We have heat waves that hit Canada and America that killed over 1,000 people. We are stuck in this crisis of forever wars, expanding police state, increased income inequality, a massive homelessness crisis. If 20 years ago, if you asked the state society to be like that, you'd be like, what? What happened? And people wonder why I'm radicalized. Let it be known that incrementalism led to this. There are a lot of talk about extreme ideology this, extreme ideology that. But it was incrementalism that doomed us here with the climate crisis. Never forget that. So when you see the state of society right now with all these crazy stuff going on, and we have leaders that are non-existent, as Meg laid out earlier, that's why we are upset. That's why we are mad. And I only hit the surface level, my friend. Hey, I'm sorry, but we got all this crazy stuff going on. And there are people that still give privileged commentary tapes because they're wealthy. It's easy for them to shield themselves from the harsh reality of the society that we live in right now. So do not allow anyone to squelch your anger, because if this was in any sort of science fiction movie, like the stuff that is happening right now, we'd be like, you guys are in a dystopian society at this point. Like, look how many people are going homeless. Look how many people are living in poverty. On top of the fact that we have these crazy storms. We got a massive pandemic that has been spreading across the world. Like, this is some movie stuff that we are in right now. But people still are falling, and this is including the squad as well. They've been the biggest advocates of incrementalism. They fell for that tranquilizing drug. So if you want to wonder why I'm extreme, why I have these solutions, why I'm blinking, all right, we got to explore other options other than just electoral politics. I'm talking about organizing strikes, that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of solutions that we need to look at now. But Whenever I see these stories, whenever I see these wildfires, whenever I see all this stuff pop off, I was just thinking like, man, this is exactly why I had the politics I do. Like, imagine being a shit lib with all the stuff that is going on. It doesn't make sense. So that's why when I see Meg get upset, and you guys hear Meg get upset, that resonates with me, and that should resonate with everybody. Instead of people who spend their time tone policing and wondering why people are so upset, this situation that we are in radicalizes us. So I hope all you guys have that same amount of anger. And what we cover is not meant to be doom and gloom, because the exact opposite actually is more hurtful. What I mean by that. So we're not doom and gloom. We just want to get people prepared of what's happening. When I tell you politicians are not going to save you, that's me getting you prepared for the fact that a politician is not going to stop you from being homeless. Imagine how many people donated to whatever politician and they're homeless now. Did that politician save them? So if you are selling the idea of hope that things are going to be great, if we just support like Justice Democrats, for example, you're not getting people prepared for the late stage capitalist society hellhole that we're living in right now. So when we cover things that sound depressing, yes, I understand it's depressing, but that should rally you and make you want to take care of your neighbors more. That should make you want to engage in mutual aid more. Because as I became more politically educated, as I shifted further to the left, I feel like I became a better person. Because when I have conflicts with people, I'm like, why are we even arguing with all the stuff that's going on right now? We live in a police state. Like, why are we having these little small squabbles? So these are the kind of things you got to take from that. So I know this is a depressing conversation, but this should spur you to action instead of defeatism. But if we were just telling you guys hope and telling you guys everything will be okay, that allow you to stay on your laurels. And that's what a lot of people do. Oh, don't worry, everything will be okay. Politicians will save us. That just kills action. So I know it's depressing, but to me, this just makes me want to fight even harder. So that's all I have. I'll toss it back to RJ.
Yeah, what you said was very cool, Nick. This type of coverage we give on Frampton Leftists, this doesn't mean to depress you or to make you feel bad, even though I know a lot of really these topics discussing what's going on with Haiti and really discussing with many different topics of people which are suffering. It's a means to expose you to maybe situations or maybe different ideas that you probably don't see. And for us, it's really just great to understand what's going on so that you can go back to your community and try to organize and make these changes yourselves. So I would think it's important to really highlight these issues that's not only going around the world, but what's going on in your own neck of the woods. So that's just my quick point on that.
I want to answer this one right here.
Oh, go ahead.
Why does the right want to rule a dead planet? Now, this is the thing. The funny thing is conservatism started as planet conservation.
Yep.
But we live in a massively propagandized state where the Republican Party will hijack by corporate interests. So you have a lot of lower people who are voting against the interests. They are fighting against their interests. A lot of people in the South, they are already feeling the effects of climate change with their water pipes being poisoned. More likely, they drink poison water. Their crops are failing more often. So they already feeling the effects. Now, the reason why the ruling class does not care, the ruling class who mislead these people, I cover everything under the guise of the class war. This is a class war. So if you're a rich person, you know you can relocate because there's going to be a lot of relocations that's going on when climate change happens, where people want to move into more hospital areas. But if you are a poor working class person, what is your freedom of movement? Your freedom of movement does not exist. If you're a rich person in Florida, you can find a bunker. You're going to find a bunker. And the rich people know that. They know that things are going to get really bad, but they know they can hire extra security forces. Like you see all the celebrities and CEOs have. So they know they're going to hire the protection to protect themselves from you. But when we start rioting and whenever their places start flooding or becoming inhabitable, it's easy for them to relocate. For us poor peasants, not so much. So to answer your question, the rich, and not only the right, the neoliberal left as well, who are climate change deniers, they know they're wealthy and they can be taken care of. But the right, the poor peasant rights are being misled by their leaders, like they always have. Like liberals are being misled by Democrats. So that's my answer. Did anyone else want to take a shot at that? But that's my answer to that. I think it was a good question.
I mean, I don't think that the right wants to rule over a dead planet. I mean, I think their plan is to somehow run off to Mars with the billionaires, even though the billionaires are going to leave them behind. Let's be real. The billionaires are leaving y'all behind. They want to get themselves off the planet, not you. Like, no one on the right is going to be saved by whatever the billionaires are doing with their weird dick-shaped rockets going into space. They're willing to save themselves, not us. But
And when Shauna said this, I'm
What?
dead serious. I'm dead
Yeah.
serious. Sorry, man, I'll let you continue. But I'm dead. Like, I joke on Twitter, like, yo, we should start a socialist commune. Ha ha. Kind of serious. I'm kind of serious. We need to start considering resource sharing. There are people that take us, oh, you guys don't like electoral politics? What's the solution then? That. We need to escape this society, because this society is failing us, and it's going to continue to fail us more. So what are we going to do? Like, we're not going to have health care. We're not going to have the living wage. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen through electoral politics. So how about we just take care of each other? So when I say socialist commune, that's going to take one hell of an effort to make. But I'm dead serious. When things get bad enough, these are the kind of things we got to talk about. But I deeply apologize, Meg. I want you to add to that or finish your thought you were about to say.
Yeah, no, you're good, because I want to pick up on the thing that you said about the fact that, conservatives started out as being conservationists. And I was raised Catholic, so I've read the Bible, and one of the things that it says in the Bible in Genesis is that humans were created to be the shepherds of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are talking about conservatives being religious, and in the Bible it says that humans were created to take care of this planet, like, why are you not trying to protect the earth that God gave you? Like, if you are a Christian and you care about the earth that God gave you, all this abundance that he has given you, why are you not working harder to protect it? Why do you continue to exploit it and kill the planet that God gave you? You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Meg.
Meg taking us to church.
Hey,
I love what you.
I mean, RJ did a panel. So I was looking at some of the comments about how to grow your own food, and that.
Yeah.
I remember you posted a video of that. Watch it, guys, because these are the kind of conversations that we need to start having. Not, oh, who we're gonna elect in 2026. We need to start having these conversations about growing our own food and take care of ourselves. But sorry, RJ, what were you about to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, you made a great point about conservatives to being about that. I mean, there was a president who's a staunch imperialist, which is terrible, but it was back in the 1890s, Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, yeah.
For many of the conservatives back then, even now, you start hearing conservatives talk about, oh, how great Teddy Roosevelt is. Well, if you like him, how about you actually take care of the planet? Because he created many national forests during that time, like so much so that Congress said, hey, stop fucking doing that. We want to have our corporations go there. He was like, fuck off. Yeah. I'm going to sign more executive orders.
It did steal a lot of native land in order to do that.
Yeah, so that true. Yeah, that too. I agree with that. So that's why I said, too, he's a staunch imperialist, had those type of issues. But even conservatives aren't even playing that line. So they're even much worse now than they were even were back then today. So just thought I may add that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think we have time to really wrap up and really give some plugs about what's going on right now with everyone else's shows and what they're doing right now, maybe going to other people's shows. So let's get JB right now. JB, any plugs for us going on right now?
So Sunday, I'm going to be having Chris Richards and Kennedy Cooper on. We're going to be talking. I basically gave Chris Richards the nickname The Professor because he always teaches me something whenever he comes on. So I'll be having him on. I've been reading the chat, and nothing has escaped my my notice. And so, yeah, Frankie Small, I do think the Republicans are infested with bought and paid for elites, but I also think that the Democrats are infested with bought and paid for elites. And all the things that you've been saying, you've been speaking as if you're talking to Democrats. We're not Democrats. Just want to let you know, none of us are Democrats. We're all on the left. We're all actual leftists, like anti-capitalists. So, yeah. So next time when you come back, just remember that we don't care about these elites. In fact, we don't want them around anymore. So, yeah. So I've been paying attention to the chat, but I appreciate everybody been talking. And please make sure to support us on Ko-fi. Buy us a coffee, like you see on the chat on the Chiron here, and because we keep talking about these things. And I actually do want to have a discussion about not just how to grow our own food, but to teach ourselves how to be a little bit more resourceful in doing different things, and also getting together with our communities more. Because we have to get back to that so that we're able to have a more better community. It's just like the old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it really takes a village to continue to have solidarity with other humans. And the thing is that because of technology and things like this, we've been drifting apart. So we need to put forth effort to come back together. That's all I got to say.
Perfectly well said there, JB. Thanks for the plugs there. Nick, any plugs for us or anything coming up for you?
Make sure you guys stay tuned tonight. I am going to have an amazing foreign policy panel. Something that I think is very important is us to build the idea of an international left. And this is why I go so hard on people who have really bad imperialist takes, because if you're not anti-imperialist, if you're not caring about people across the border, if you only care about people that are American or of your country, I don't think you're a leftist. Like that's, to me, I think you're missing a big part of what being a leftist is about. So with all the problems that we laid out, we laid out all the problems all these countries are going through right now. We need to tackle that as an international community. So you guys know who Dr. Kareem Batesh is. I had him a few times on my show. Brilliant man. Dr. Peter Beatty was on last time. He's going to join us as well. And also one of my favorite people, one of the best foreign policy sources, Dr. Asar Rod. She will be on as well. 3 PhDs made in debunking propaganda on imperialism. We're going to have a roundtable later tonight. It should be around 9:15 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you guys check that out. We talk about a little bit of foreign policy. This roundtable, you guys know I'm a big foreign policy nerd, so I'm very, very interested in getting their takes on what's been happening. I know Dr. Kareem Batesh just wrote a whole op-ed in his Substack about how debunking the whole bombing for feminism concept. And these people are brilliant. Like, I'm very honored to talk to these people, so I'm gonna ask him about that. So if you guys want to have another foreign policy conversation tonight, check us out because it's gonna be really fun. Anyone else? That's all I have now.
Yeah, Meg or Sabby, who wants to go?
Yeah. So at 7 o'clock, I'll be on Meg's show, and we're talking about millennials. Yay! And then tomorrow on FHL, I'll be talking about racism in real estate. So definitely join me with that, and not just home buying, but also renting as well. And then tomorrow evening, it'll be me and JB and a new guy on the block named Rob Belchner, who has a channel on YouTube, who's a leftist as well. We're going to talk about elections, activism, and podcasters, and what's going on the left and which direction we should be going into.
Yeah, and I'll be there for that one, by the way.
I can't say anything.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, gosh. Okay, Meg, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, as Sabby just wonderfully said, she will be on my show in 1 hour. So stay tuned. She and Bess Godin from Millennial will both be on. We're going to talk about being millennial feminists and what all that means. I do have other interviews coming up on Tuesday. This will be pre-recorded on Tuesday. I finally get to talk to an academic feminist that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time about the economics of visibility and how certain feminisms and activism become more visible and gain capital. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That'll probably come out in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'll have Esha on my show. So lots of different things coming up. I also have Andre Walton coming up soon. And we're going to talk about how to organize in rural and conservative areas. So lots of good things coming up.
Ooh.
Wow, beautifully said there. What I'll say is Gen Z, we're obviously better, but it's okay.
I'm going to take you off the stream right now.
I'll have a Gen Z. I'll have a Gen Z panel at some point. Got a Gen Z
perfect.
feminism panel.
I'm a baby millennial.
Okay, but plugs for me for what I'm doing. Friday, I'll be having Punch Up Pod, both co-hosted by Pat the Burner as well as Lila. They'll be on with me late Friday night. that'll be my first ever late night stream, which I'll be doing. I'll be testing around to see which time slot's best for me. Going through school and working, so I can't do my 6 p.m. slot anymore. So stay tuned with me. I'll always put out a tweet saying when I'm going live, but I'll be doing that until I get a regular time.
Nerdologics too. I forgot to rep Nerdologics every Monday.
Okay, perfect. So while I'm busy trying to find time slots, I'll be everywhere, but I'll let you guys know I'm going live. So I'll be with Punch Up Pod, Pat the Burner, and Lila. Check us out Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be really talking about news of the week, as well as Pat being targeted and who Pat was ratioing on Twitter. So we might bring that up. But also, too, Sunday at, I believe, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have a friend of FHL, good politic guy. You know him on YouTube as Mac. I'll be talking with him. It'll be a great discussion. So check this out as well. So if we don't have any more other questions, comments, or plugs, I guess we can wrap up here. So I do want to thank everyone really for watching on the Fred Hampton Leftist Network, our Fred Hampton Leftist Roundtable. Thank you for tuning in to not only to hear us discuss many issues of the week and give many different takes on what's going on the ground and across the world. So we do want to thank you all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the comments. And thank you for being here. And continue to tune in, and we'll see you next week. So thank you guys, and have a good night.